It's a special, baby. Of course, I'm starting a few minutes early. Welcome to the Condor DM show. I have a special tonight focused on Advanced Dungeons and Dragons First Edition. This is a deep dive. We're going to focus more on sort of what was learned through the process, what it was. You know, I could focus on details about the game, teach you how to play, but that's not what this stream is about. Though it will make you understand the gameplay, definitely. This is all about really teaching you what Advanced Dungeons and Dragons First Edition was to the hobby, what it means to people, and why it's good. That's going to be the focus of tonight's stream. What was good about it, why it was valuable, what it did. That's what we're going to take a look at because it's a masterpiece that Gary Gygax and other people made. It's worth understanding it on a deeper level. And I'm going to go as deep as we can go, I promise you. So we'll give it a minute to breathe, right? This is going to be something where this week it's Advanced Dungeons and Dragons First Edition. I want new people to understand the old game. I also want them to know the value of it, what it actually is, and for that to inspire them to look at something like the OSR, because there's a lot of clones created based off this game. Now, next week, we're going to take a deep dive into original Dungeons and Dragons. Trust me, they're both unique and different in their own ways, and the history is like an adventure for both, and it's worth really understanding. Why am I doing first edition AD&D before original? Well, I have my reasons. I really think it's, a lot of people already know where they are. It's hard to get people to go back to the basics all the way. I want you to sort of understand, and then we start like slowly unwrapping this stuff. That's the idea. By the time we get back to original, it will be unwrapped down to the most basic core. So you'll understand D&D at its most basic level. That's the plan, to educate anyone who's new, especially, to what this was. Not leave it behind in history, put my mark here, and let people know that this is always, old school is always going to be worth your time. There is magic here, and there's always something new that can be developed from this. See, in a way, I look at WotC, or even third edition, as a form of OSR, right? Really, it's just taking the old game and making something new with it. Drastic rule changes makes it a little bit different than, of course, most OSR games, but in a way, I don't have the same connection as many people do to WotC D&D. Though, as people know, I have recently, for the first time, tried WotC D&D and ran 5e, and I'll return to doing some of that, of course, but that's not the focus for tonight. So, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. I'm someone who doesn't wait too long before I dive right in. Why 1E exists? This is important. Basic wasn't enough. You put something out, and the second you put out something, somebody wants more, and they want more, and they want more. And original D&D did a lot of, okay, we'll serve more. But it got to the point of everyone's going to say, well, we could use host rules, but of course you're going to hear, it'd be nice to see something new. Demand comes. AD&D was created to standardize tournament play and stop table-to-table rule drift. I'm going to talk about it in more detail here, but the idea is to, instead of letting people really run it their own way, start trying to establish a set of rules that everybody plays by. Like one set, this is it. Control the rules, control the brand. Right? This is what D&D is. If you do this over here, that's not D&D. I have a very opinion on this because I myself found Gary in many different mindsets that could somewhat alternate away from AD&D First Edition's approach overall. But I'm just being real instead of driving my own, thoughts or whatever into this. This is all about what was real at the time, what was stated, what was the approach. So I won't deny it. Gary Gygax at the time wanted official authority over what counted as real D&D. Now, this came under what we call lawsuit pressure. The split from Dave Arneson and the business disputes pushed TSR to formalize AD&D as a distinct line. You could almost say AD&D is Dungeons and Dragons in a sort of sense past the Frankenstein of original. I'm throwing this in there myself. Hardcore era begins. Or hardcover era begins. Monster Manual 1977 came first before the Player's Handbook. TSR becomes corporate. This is where D&D stops being a scrappy experiment and becomes a structured product line. So this is where it goes from we put together a Frankenstein and we're selling it to, okay, we have an established brand product. We are this. We are Dungeons and Dragons. We are a real established thing. A lot of products or things come and go. So when you do establish some type of life on the market of these type of things, making money, making games, making toys, it becomes a big issue. So and understand, they're trying to establish themselves as exactly that. A brand that is here to stay. And to stay mean they'll keep making products that will keep being purchased by the customer line, right? That's pretty much it. That's how you're going to move forward and exist. Core books, the foundation. Monster Manual 1977, first major hardcover, established monster ecology tone. More lethal than later editions. I would say that's true. Yeah, the lethality in the Monster Manual for first edition was brutal. If you understand the entire game, like just you compare what you see to the entire game overall, and you go, yeah, man, that's dragons. Yeah, that's not good. I don't see that being good at all. Player's Handbook 1978. Races capped in level. Class restrictions enforced. Assassins, monks, illusionists exist. Dungeon Master Guide came out in 1979. Dense, opinionated, random tables for everything. Gygax, his statements and opinions dominate the entire book, man. It's like sitting down with an old time DM or something, and he's just giving you the run through. Like, I don't care. I'm a second edition guy, but I would just say that book on wisdom and thoughts and opinions just overall has its own value compared to second edition. I've never said that book was something lesser, or even me as a second edition guy, I take a lot from that book. I really appreciate it. I've always thought fondly of that book because of the wisdom you find in it. In Gary's opinion, the DM is king. First Ed assumes strong education, not balanced, not symmetrical. Okay. Game design philosophy. Important. Okay. War game bones. Armor class descending. Thaco precursor math. Initiative segments. Grit over heroics. This is so true about AD&D 1. It's dungeon crawl. That's something I've always said. Like, it's dungeon crawl grit more than you're being out there being a hero. Like, if you're being real about that, that's what AD&D First Edition is. A lot of grindy gameplay meant to be something more leveled down, like more, the hero is epic, but you're just a guy with some ability out at the dungeon, and who knows why you're there, maybe for your own greed. Low-level characters are fragile. High-level characters become mythic. Oh yeah, if you make it to high levels, if that's such a thing in your game for an AD&D first edition thing, your characters can become godly. That is so true. Balance was not the goal. Uneven classes. Magic users, weak early, gods later. Well, if you understand the gameplay, for sure. Fighters scale through survivability, alignment matter, not flavor. Mechanical consequences to alignment. Very important. Gygaxian naturalism. Dungeons had logic, ecology, factions. Now, as we move forward, we're going to get into modules. Some I'm going to name here with specific names. Some I just might mention as, say, like D1, right? See, a lot of modules are all titled these letters, like D1 or... So whenever I mention that, if I don't mention the exact name, you can always just go look that up yourself. Though I'll mention quite a few names here. I don't mention every single name. A lot of older guys that understand AD&D first edition will understand these modules. They've played every one of them. There's no doubt. But I promise you the information, if I say a number, like a letter and a number, you can go just and just, further deep dive yourself. I just think the ones that I'm going to name specifically and give you information on is more to understand this entire thing. So the rest are just like, go have fun, right? Module era. This is where first edition AD&D shines, as they would say. 1E is built around modules. The Giants series, G1 to G3. Tournament brutal. Deadly encounters, tight design, leads into Drow arc. Drow series, D1 to D3. Underdark introduced properly. Dark elves as a civilization. I love that. Not just monsters. Queen of the Demon Web Pits, Q1. Waff becomes mythic, right? So some of the things you might be hearing about, like in Baldur's Gate 3, some of the development goes through some layers here, right? High-level planner adventure, early cosmic scale play. Tomb of Horrors, S1. Player killer, designed to humble, powerful player characters. Puzzle over combat. And then there's Keep on the Borderlands, B2. Gateway module. That's so true. Gateway, introduction, Caves of Chaos, faction dungeon design. Then there's the famous Temple of Elemental Evil, T1 to T4, Greyhawk at scale, cult politics, multi-level mega dungeon. Beautiful stuff. Modules are so important. So important. And AD&D First Edition finally really pushes this whole thing. Like, when you went back to original Dungeons and Dragons, there's not just all these random new things. There's sort of a set of campaigns that comes out so you can extend in levels. Because the basic game doesn't start with higher levels. So to extend in levels, you start going through these other campaigns. A lot more of the, hey, here's a new world, here's a new adventure just thing, instead of how do you progress through the game? Because the game, in a way, is already made. So now there's only themes and minor changes that come through. Just not the same thing. Worlds of 1E. Now, when I say Advanced Dungeons and Dragons First Edition, I won't hit on anything exactly WotC, but since WotC D&D, they've recreated some of this stuff. All right, Greyhawk, the default. That's an important note. The default. Greyhawk is like the base of AD&D First Edition. And there's a great love for Greyhawk. There really is. I mean, there's a whole YouTube channel. There's a YouTube guy who focuses only on Greyhawk. I mean, the channel actually holds up. That's just how much love the world of Greyhawk to this day still holds on to. Gygax, and this was Gary's home campaign. Like it's the Greyhawk. Sword and sorcery tone, morally gray, human-centric politics, city of Greyhawk, urban adventuring template. Really is. Like there's so much that is developed from Greyhawk, especially like you gotta understand these worlds really inspire some of the great modules and adventures that come with them. Also related to tournament play, which we'll get to sooner or later. Forgotten Realms. Okay, this was 1E launch, right? This was for first edition, launch in 1987. We're at second edition. High Fantasy Explosion. Ed Greenworld's world. Gods are active. Magic everywhere. More narrative driven than Greyhawk. Dragonlance, on the other hand, Roots. They had like what epic sets of modules. Story over sandbox. DL1 to DL16 type campaign arcs. War of the Lance. Pre-generated heroes for that. Novel crossover begins here. And it really is like this is where something written in one of the books or the series starts actually invading into some of the game stuff you're going to encounter. So that's where they're saying crossover, or I'm saying crossover. Novel crossover begins here. Now, Ravenloft, it was born in what I call 1E module, right up to like module I6. That's the creation part for Ravenloft. Sorry, I forgot the number there. I'm taking that off the top of my head. Gothic horror inside 1E rules. Strahd is a tragic villain. Now, you know I've covered Ravenloft for second edition. Gothic horror inside of 1E rules. What it is how would you experience horror or nightmares or whatever, like that type of experience, and what is supposed to be something born of a war game, right? With combat and whatnot. Gothic horror. Strahd is a tragic villain. Atmosphere over dungeon crawl. Very important. Atmosphere is really important to the entire thing. Now, it tries its best to get that, but again, at the end of the day, we know how people work. Some people are good at it. Some people aren't. Oriental Adventures. There's something a lot of people don't even want to bring up most of the time. Alternate cultural frame. New classes, honor system. So it's stepping away from the European frame of Dungeons and Dragons. You know, the King Arthur stuff. This is going towards your ninjas, your samurais, the Asian culture. Now, of course, there is things related to it, but like anything, nerds are people that create things, go after what is, in my opinion, like cool. It's like it's what would be in the movie more than what would be in real life. So, and if you look at the people that worked on Oriental Adventures, it was many like Asian people working on it. So it wasn't like done in some it's meant to insult the culture thing way. But a lot of people do sort of go like, well, why were all these white guys putting out this Asian adventure thing? Well, there's a lot of people that get paid that weren't white. I think that's pretty fair. Expansion books. Unearthed Arcana, 1985. Cavalier, Barbarian, Weapon Specialization, Power Creep begins. Yeah, I would say that's true. Power Creep begins at the Unearthed Arcana. Yeah, they start pushing like beyond what the game is initially trying to hold you back from. And it really is. There's a part of it that is, right? Like it holds you back to a certain point, but the game is like a slingshot. Like it keeps pulling back. And then if you get to a certain level, you're God. Deities and demigods. Gods had stat blocks. Yeah. So when this product comes out, now you have gods that I guess you could potentially try to have a combat with. I don't know, fight or use something on them. You could fight Thor, you know. Fiend Folio. I have this myself. I love it. Weird British monsters. The Slotty, Death Knights. Oh man, if you don't know first edition, you are missing out. It's just a different tone and view on D&D. And if you're new school, it's it's a completely different take on many things, so different that to experience you realize you're not playing an evolved version of this. You're just playing a different version of this, right? That is my real opinion. It's if you have the experience here, you'll realize this is not a downgrade from where you are. This is just a different experience. And in many ways, it's easier than what you're doing most of the time. And to me, because there's so much to be created here, there's more meat on the bone for what you can do and how far you could take things. Now, I could sit here and try to criticize 1E tonight, but that's not going to be my focus. I'm going to be really nice. I'm going to do some comparisons here that might shock people given that they know I'm second edition. How 1E differs from 2E. Messy but alive. 1E is raw. DM fiat assumed. So the authority of the DM, just assumed by every player at the table. No matter what you say, I will argue to this day that I think second ed actually isn't an insult to 1E. I think it attempts to take 1E where I've had my own experience, and I do feel this is true, that there's a little smoothing out and organizing of what 1E is with some changes and establishing some things. And I personally have never seen it as an insult towards scary. It does seem like a progression of 1E, and the hybrid factor of just being able to mix the editions so easily makes sense to me because they're using the same program. I don't see that you can mix 3E with 2E, but you can mix 2E with 1E. You get what I'm saying? I see them both more the same thing. So when people are bothered that I might say, oh, yeah, you like second edition, I'm like, well, dude, in a way, I'm still saying if you like first edition, you're doing good. We're still in the same category. The game is so similar to each other that it's like, yeah, I'm okay with 1E. I always have been. I mean, I probably would approach it more like second edition, but I've never had an issue with 1E overall. I just have a preference and taste and whatnot. There's just things I prefer over there, just like I guess people that played first E before second edition would prefer to stick with their thing. I get that. That makes sense to me. In a way, 1E was like more lethal. Poison kills, level drain brutal, less concerned with optics. Assassin class, demon names, devil names. TSR business. This is the take from the business aspect. Golden Age profits. Late 70s, early 80s, boom. Overexpansion. Too many products, mid 80s. So true. Transition to second edition and what they would say 1989 officially on the market. Brand cleaned up. Demons renamed. Toned, softened. So some of the more out there things that would be pushed back on by, say, parents, that was removed. This is trying to bring the product overall into the mainstream. That's what second edition is attempting to do. But instead of, in many ways, from what I've known when I was there, many people would skip it over because they felt it was an insult to them to go this commercial realm. See, a lot of customers felt like, no, TSR should stick to the minority. We should not actually expand out to the wider majority with the product. And they thought it would water the product down. It would harm the product to have to extend it out. But if you do that TSR, you become that. But TSR at the same time got into a predicament where too many people hired, too many investments. Well, put it this way. By the time people are saying you should hold on to the minority, TSR is in a situation where it needs to make a massive amount of money that minority is just not passing over to them. So it becomes survival, in my opinion, from what I know at the time. It becomes survival. So, yeah. Okay. Let's talk about AD&D First Edition combat. Important stuff. 60 seconds. Initiative was not simple. 1E initiative is not modern initiative. You can roll per side. You can roll per segment. Spell casting time matters. Segment breaks the round into 10 parts. Combat is messy on purpose. You weren't meant to treat it like a board game. You were meant to treat it as, it's abstract and educate, like just use your common sense when looking at the situation instead of like being like, oh, you're down to the exact board move, right? It's meant, again, this is where when you see some really organized miniature play, this is actually not the aim, which a lot of people do argue that, I guess, modern day people think it is. It really wasn't the exact aim to be this miniature game, right? Again, the text, even though it talks about miniatures, it's never mandated. It's always optional to help you with small details. But for the most part, you're really not supposed to. The DM is supposed to be a little loose with how they take things in. Like, instead of like this exact move, oh, sure, I'll let you. Yeah, you cross over there and kill them. Like, that type of approach is allowed, type of thing, right? Like, you can be a little bit more free as a DM with combat than, I guess, some modern DMs would say or argue that are on social media. I don't know. Armor class goes down, descending AC. 10 means no armor. So if you have a 10, you're pretty much naked. If you have a 0, you have elite defense. Negative AC exists. You subtract your THACO style target number to see what you hit. It's math heavy, but once you get it, it flows. Modern players think it's confusing. Old players think it's elegant. THACO is beautiful. Once you understand how it works, you'll never not know how it works. It becomes like easy like breathing air. So it's not the complaints you hear from many people. Just, to me, it's people that have chosen, for whatever reason, to remain ignorant about it instead of just simply paying attention. Because when you pay attention to what it really is, or listen to a clear explanation, which doesn't take much, it starts making sense. Like, I could go through it, but I have many times. I'll just go over it in a different way. This is a deeper dive on this type of issue. More wisdom here to be found. THACO before THACO. 1E doesn't officially use THACO in the core books. It uses attack matrices. You look up your level, cross-reference armor class, find the number needed. It's slower, but very clear. Later editions just reverse engineered it into a formula. That's what second edition does, turns it into THACO formula. This is how it works, pretty straightforward. I find the approach in second edition is cleaner and better. Way better. It achieves the same, like you want it to work, it achieves that, but it takes the THACO and just simplifies it down, makes it easy to process the entire thing. I personally think that's a better way to go at THACO, even if you were doing first edition. I think that's an adjustment that is worth making. Casting a spell was dangerous. Spells take segments to cast. If you get hit before the spell goes off, the spell is gone, baby. You get it used up. No concentration checks, no partial success. It creates tension. It really does. Like, you start casting and you need to wait like a while to cast. All you got to do is get poked the wrong way and you can't cast. And the use of the spell is actually gone too. So you can't just, oh, I fucked up, I'll try it again. It's not how it works. Magic users were glass cannons with real risk. It's true. Early on, poke, die. Wizards, like you did not frontline fight with wizards. Not if you were wise early on. You'd always stay back, use range, do whatever you could in that vein to stay alive. Weapon speed and weapon length matter. Daggers are faster than two-handed swords. Long weapons strike first in some situations. If initiative ties, speed factor breaks it. That means weapon choice actually matters tactically. This is wargaming tactics, and this really mattered. See, this is some of the wargaming elements do matter to Gary and the team and the designers. They want this to matter. This does continue into second edition, regardless of my own views on some of these things. This is what it was, right? Now, I'm being real about what it was. We're here to be real. Moral is real. Monsters don't fight to the death by default. Remember, it's not like a video game or a board game. There are moral checks. Creatures can flee. Combat is always slaughter to 0 HP. It feels more organic, closer to its war game roots. They hit 0, they die. It's over. Done. Death is brutal. 0 HP, unconscious. Negative HP, dying. At negative 10, you're dead. Poison can kill instantly. Level drain is permanent. No death saves. The world is dangerous, not balanced. Let me say that again. The world is dangerous, not balanced. The game, old school, wanted to challenge you, not make it easy. Not make it a fun walk in the park as you're getting something, stabbed at you. It's like, no, man, there's some scary places you got to go to meet people doing that to you or things. High-level combat gets mythic in AD&D First Edition for the few that went through it. Low-level, fragile nobodies. Isn't that true? Fragile nobodies. High-level, reality warpers. Gods. Potential. Teleport, wish, gate. Fighters survive through raw durability. Clerics reshape battlefields. It scales hard. So true. Scales hard. Like weak to wow. Weak to wow. Weak to wow. That's combat, baby. For AD&D First Edition. So much truth here, so much deep diving, so much trying to get you to understand what this really, really, really is. So much, so much. Why 1E fans won't let it die. Important section. It feels dangerous. Modern editions cushion failure. Let me say that again. Modern editions cushion failure. Right? Makes it easier. Makes it, you feel it less. 1E punishes mistakes. Doesn't make it easier. Oh, you were incompetent? Oh, there's the hole. Where modern games are more like, you're incompetent? Well, all right, watch out. Be a little careful, man, next time. Okay, be careful. You want to know what? We'll give you an extra dice roll. Here's a chance to get out of your situation. Where 1E's more like, oh, you're incompetent? You fall down the hole. That's it. It felt that way, right? When you survive, you earned it. It's not like the game was going, hey, man, we'll take it easy. When you actually survive the falling down the hole or the thing or the getting out of the thing, you feel like you earned it because you did, right? That's AD&D First Edition. It's called the Earning It. I won't lie, I got a lot of good players. I've always questioned DMs from 1E because even though the book is great, the production, some things don't trigger people towards certain things I don't think all the time. I think second edition, ironically, did a better aim at, even though it seems confusing in a way, getting DMs to where they needed to be. That's my personal take. But beyond that, when it came to players, 1E, lucky for me, produced a lot of great players. They earned it. If you were considered a good first edition AD&D player, you're good. You're a good D&D player. No matter original, second edition, or first edition. Automatically marks you as good. As a DM, if I hear this about you, please come play my game. Victory feels heavier. It's the truth. It's one thing to just get it because all the things were easier on you. Like, yeah, cool, that's awesome. But when you earned it first edition, like you did the greatest thing ever, it was like, geez, how the fuck did we even pull that off? Like you are so excited that it's because so many times the thing doesn't go your way. That's what D&D is all about. Old school is all about. Well, you ever hear the speech Sylvester Stallone gives to his son about how many times you fall down and get up? I got to say, that's a perfect way of describing AD&D first edition. A good player is someone who has gone through a gauntlet of can you fall down and get back up and just keep playing instead of giving up. I've seen AD&D first edition players just break. Like too many humiliation factors where they're like, okay, because when you're in a game like one of these, you can feel it. Like you can feel failure. Like you feel, even though you're not doing anything wrong, the dice makes you feel incompetent. Oh, I rolled a 1. Jeez. Like you're fine, but the character isn't. I've seen some guys that I know are very credible just have down nights and probably said it for the first. I've never felt that way in my life ever. I'm like, yeah, because you were into the game. And even though you're not really incompetent at all, man, your character just dice roll sucked. I hope there was a clean refresher there. I don't know if I was cut out for a bit. Restream. I can do all the testing in the world for this thing, and it's brutal. I hope there's not much of a glitch tonight because there's a lot of stuff I have to say here. Victory feels heavy, as I was finishing earlier. It really does in AD&D First Edition. The DM has authority. The system assumes ruling over rules, as you've heard. The books don't pretend to cover everything, as I've said a million times in my content about old AD&D, or old D&D, period. That freedom is attractive. How can I say it's the freedom for you to decide how to rule on something in your own way? It's that control factor as a DM. You take on the thing. It's not just an authority thing. It's like a bonding with the game. To me, and the better I do it, the more players want to play the game. That was always old school in my mind. It's not about having an ego that I'm better. It's about I'm doing this the best I can to attract you, because I'm a public game master that was always recruiting from strangers. So I always had the mindset that I want to run a game in a way that brings people to the table. Always important to me. You aren't fighting the system. You're running the world. That's so true. You're not fighting the players. It's not player versus DM. It's not system versus you. You own the system. You decide everything. You're running the show, right? They could say raw when it comes to AD&D 1, but there's not a lot raw. There's a lot of freedom. And even in raw, when you go to areas where it's telling you how things move, you'll notice more suggestions. So if there's suggestions, even if you're being told raw, well, a percentage of this that I've heard some of the guys I think get wrong over the years is they'll mark down the suggestion as a raw rule. And I'm like, no, that's a you can do it this way thing. That's not a you do it this way. That's a you can do it this way thing. Nothing wrong with those things. But some of those I think are misunderstood to be for sure. My opinion. It doesn't care about balance. Classes are uneven. Races are restricted. Humans dominate late game. It feels like a world, not a symmetrical design. That imperfection gives it character. Like the game doesn't pretend that it needs to be this perfect balanced thing. The game doesn't hide the fact that you might not level up the same as a fighter to a thief. It just says, okay, well, here's how the thief levels up. Do you want to play a thief? And every character, the idea is there's benefits, and that helps the group. So it's saying, who cares if it takes longer to level up? It's not like you didn't know before you picked the character. So it's saying, what the game is saying is, no matter what, in a way, these characters can all exist together, even if you see these sort of differences in levels and differences in things happening for them. There is a, it's sort of like just a different reflection on what's considered leveling up. And what they do is go, we're not looking to balance them as all the same. We're looking to be more realistic in simulation to what these things are. So a lot of that realism plays in. Writing has personality. The writing has personality. Read the 1E, the AD&D 1E Dungeon Master Guide. You hear Gary Gygax. Opinionated, sometimes preachy, always confident. I can relate. Let me say that again. Gary Gygax. So when you hate on me, just hear me out. Opinionated, sometimes preachy, always confident, baby. I'm with you. It feels authored, not committee designed. It really does. You read that and you're like, yeah, all right, Gary put this shit together. Some of his guys put this together. It's not like a team sport in the same way. Gary's calling the shots and they're like, can we add this? And if you actually hear about the design for D&D, look, other people made the game, but let's be real. Even Dave Arneson acknowledges this. Gary had the final say. He was the producer of things, right? You go through him to put something in. Can we please put this in, Gary? Why would you have to ask that question? Because it's up to Gary, right? That's why you ask the question, right? The question doesn't exist, doesn't happen. You don't hear people giving these stories unless you know the final is Gary, right? I think that was quite clear. And I've never heard anybody really argue that, even people that have some issues. Modules were ruthless. Tomb of Horrors doesn't apologize. Tomb of Horrors is that's I've seen that run players out of the hobby. Tomb of Horrors is so fucked. It's so fucked. It's the way it mentally gets in your head, especially with the right DM. That's a fail course right there. You want to know how? It's like, how many ways could something fuck with you? Tomb of Horrors. Or even worse, this is where it gets even worse. Temple of Elemental Evil. It doesn't scale to, like, it doesn't even try to worry about your levels. That thing is just, let's use words like demonic. The world doesn't bend at all. You adapt or you die. The game doesn't care, like, okay, probably better that you're like level 4 here, but you're like level 2. And you're like, so is there a way to get it? Well, I mean, if you don't think it, but it doesn't care. It doesn't worry where you're at in levels. You got to try to sneak through maybe at level 2. You got to do the dirty shit or get lucky as possible with the D20s, the 20 rolls, the whatever luck you can squeeze out of the world. If not, you might just die. And this part of the game can make you very frustrated because you can feel certain parts can feel almost impossible to you if you kept getting parties or characters only up to a certain level by a certain part. You're going, okay, dude, stop it. It was intoxicating for some players. It was just too much. And some players get addicted to it, though. Like, that's the addiction part is, I need to beat this. Like, I need to beat these, the Tomb of Horrors or the Temple of Elemental Evil, right? It's, I got to beat this thing. Very true. Met many of those guys. It came from wargaming, and you can feel it. Combat was, wait, time tracking matters. Ration resourcing matters. Light sources matter. It simulates risk instead of abstracting away from it. So instead of saying, you're trying to avoid risk, no, it's just, here's risk. Oh, okay. It's in your face. Get the thing, map the place out, watch what you're doing. If not, you'll die. It's a time capsule of TSR. This is peak TSR identity, before corporate cleanup, before demons were renamed, before second edition, before smoothing edges, before second edition. Raw fantasy, raw mechanics. The raw guys are going to love this shit that I'm saying tonight. I'm being so true to AD&D 1 and their people. On purpose. I'm not trying to deliver AD&D 1 from me. I'm trying just to deliver it real. Hopefully I'm getting it right here. It demands player skill. Trap detection isn't a button. You describe what you do. You do. You tap the floor. You test the idol. You pour water in the slot. It rewards cautious thinking. It does. It really does. This is it's a test of patience. A lot of parts of AD&D 1 is a test of patience. It's patience, timing, a lot of things got to come together. It respects mystery. Monsters didn't have CR labels. The world didn't scale to you. Oh, here's where you go when you get down to... Doesn't care what you are, where you're going. Like, it just, this is what it is. You didn't know if something was survivable. You see the creatures like, oh, are we meant to fight him? Nothing is there because you're there. That's all you got to know. That is just there. You're there, but it's not there because you're there. Right? The uncertainty created fear. Oh, man. I've had some paranoid parties because they play a group and get killed by running out to fight something. They realize, DM, were you cheating us? Like, I've been accused of stuff like this when you get like new players to D&D, right? Like, no, dude, you just weren't meant to fight that thing. And I gave you all the signs. And when I run them back, it's not that I feel like they feel cheated by me. They go, okay, yeah, that was quite obvious. But they just didn't understand the concept that they were supposed to avoid. And so that never, all the hints in the world didn't tell them. And to me, that's part of learning the game, is letting you face the consequences that first time you don't know. I hate to say it, but it's the next time you'll play much better. You won't care. That's the greatest learning lesson. It's what I've learned over the years. And then you have players that are going to be more cautious, careful. No, you don't run. Fear created immersion. The more scared you are, the more like you're thinking, okay, hide behind the thing. Like, you're more focused. The second you see the nasty monster, you're like, oh shit, okay. All right, hold on, guys. Hold on, breather. Whatever you were doing, you start pushing your thing aside and realize, all right, okay, we could be fucked here. Like, it's that zone in, I need to make sure we don't die moment, right? You know, when you're walking around in town, you might sit back in your chair for a second. The second I say, okay, you're surrounded with arrows pointed at your head, suddenly you're sitting forward like, what? Okay, what's going on here again? Explain that. That's the idea. That on the edge thing kept you on the edge, meaning into the game, right? Very important. Now we're going to talk about tournament play. Tournament play, I'm going to break it down for you. You might have heard about tournament play from AD&D time, the first edition. Yeah, tournament play became a thing. D&D wasn't just a home game anymore. This is where we start acknowledging public gaming. Early D&D was mostly home campaigns. It's true. The early stuff was, boom. Before the big boom in sales for AD&D 1, the old, just smaller class of customers mostly played campaigns at home with friends and family. Very true. But by the mid-70s, conventions exploded. This is where people start meeting other people to game with. Gen Con became the proving ground. Strangers sitting at the same table. Whew. Same module, same time limit, same scoring sheet. That was new. This is tournament play. This is going now to places, stores, and there's rules. You got to time everything. There's modules that everybody will certainly play. It's within tournament rules. Standardization was the goal. Different tables had different host rules. That doesn't work in competition. So 1E was built to standardize play, not to simplify it, to unify. AD&D becomes the official tournament version of the game. If you don't know the history of this and this tournament, like you haven't heard much about tournament play, it was really, at the time, they pushed it as a big issue because they wanted everybody to be playing the same game in a certain way. This is where the idea of a lot of the real-time, the real-time stuff kicks in, and ways to use that and whatnot. Modules were written for time limits. Most tournament slots were 3 to 4 hours. Designers had to structure clear entry, high danger, memorable set pieces, hard choices. Everything had to fit a clock. That's why many classic modules feel tight. A lot of modules were inspired and created for tournament play. They can feel real right in there for getting things done. Like everything's coming at you in a certain time because it's meant to be. It was made for that reason. Scoring was real. Players were graded. Points for surviving, completing objectives, smart play, avoiding traps, keeping party members alive, sometimes even role play scoring. It wasn't just did you win, it was how did you play. Very important. The points for how you played. That was meant to, again, be attractive to the entire system, right? Pre-generated characters were standard at this point. You didn't bring your home character, you were handed a sheet. Balanced party, defined gear, no surprises. It removed power creep. Everyone started equal. That was radical for role-playing games at the time, for tabletop role-playing games. Tournament play was. This was so far away that from what everybody had been doing that it was like, the fuck? Yeah, for real. Diddley design was intentional. The tournament modules were brutal. Why? Because skill needed to matter. Tomb of Horrors was designed to challenge experienced players, not characters. That's important. You can use player knowledge in a lot of cases if you understand that's the aim of it, is to say this is less about the character even being a person. It's more about really your experience as a player and playing it in a more, I guess, something that went against some of the design ideas by making it abstract to a little gamey. It punished assumptions. It rewarded caution. It was built for competitive bragging rights. So the idea about skilled player thing, here's the reason. It wanted to emphasize a skilled player, make that a thing, and then make that real within tournament play. Is so you could go around saying, I'm the best player around. And you could show your points. These are the ideas in their heads before it all plays out. So understand, a lot of that doesn't happen at all. But there is a period of time where this is the goal of that happening, right? The DM had to be neutral. In home games, DMs adjust. That's true. In tournaments, no favoritism. You ran the text as written, rules as written. You followed scoring guidelines. You had to. It's not about you. Again, no favoritisms. Everybody has to be, you have to be the fair judge. The idea shaped 1E's rule precision. So how the way rules were meant to be applied, right? It shapes that. It's meant for tournament play to apply there. So you just see the influence. Once you understand that this tournament public play was a thing, and you go back and read AD&D First Edition, there's some things that you might have thought you figured out, or it has some mystery that starts going away. You can start just, okay, I can see that. Public gaming changed D&D's culture. It sure did. It brought in pretty much the vast majority of the customers for AD&D First Edition. The big purchasing, that was because a lot of people that purchased it didn't have the home groups, didn't have that all built into their life. That's why they weren't already a part of the thing. Like, that's not what they do. So imagine what it's like when you find that a shitload of people purchase materials, but they're not always consistently getting together with people, or some of them don't know people. And here I am, a guy. I'll DM you. Okay. And then tons of people like me had to show up onto the scene to make that happen, between tournament play and just regular, I'll meet you at the library, and then we can play at your home or you can play at my home. But it's you. When I say public gaming, I mean the idea is that regardless to where you play, it can be similar to a real normal group, but it's your publicizing that you game. You're meeting up with other people. You're meeting strangers, right? But it's consistent. It's not just once in a while you bring some new person to your family or friends game. This is like my table is people I never met before, right? Pretty consistently when I go to a new campaign. Strangers playing together meant clear rules, written expectations, consistent rulings. So this is where you get, like, people want it to be clear. They wanted to understand how you rule, how it's, even if some other DM thinks of it in a different way, that's less important to the player. The player simply wants to know that they can understand how you rule on it. That's clear rule. So it's not that even if you were to run something different, it's clarity is so important. Consistent rulings, clarity and consistent. Even if you make up a new rule because there's nothing for that, will it be that dice roll every time? And players will expect that it's that dice roll every time. They don't mind that you put that in. That's not a problem for an old school player. It's more saying, as long as this is I can count this. See, when players learn rules, they want to count on the rules. Sorry, but I need background checks. They want to be able to count on the rules being what they are. So what they say is, even if you bring something new in DM, we're not against that, but it better be that we know what it is. So later, with player skill from knowledge, we can consider that when we're making decisions with our characters, right? Makes sense to me, right? It pushed D&D towards codification. That's AD&D. Without tournament culture, 1E likely doesn't look the way it does. So AD&D First Edition, I don't even think would be what it is without the aim at tournament play. That's how important tournament play is. It's important to the module creation. It's important to the way the game is made. To put tournament play aside and act like it's just, it was throwaway. It might have not worked, fair enough, but it's great to understand it, to truly understand that system. I mean, it really, really is. It created the module industry. The third-party adventures, that's what they are. Tournament adventures became published modules. G1 to G3, D1 to D3, S1. Con scenarios turned into products. TSR monetized convention play. That model shaped the entire hobby. To not understand how important AD&D First Edition was to Dungeons and Dragons and even the fucking hobby. I don't care about any negatives, just in the reality, the importance of it at the end of the day to at least stomp into something and make it something. It did. It made the hobby. It made it an idea. And the extensions that come from it, I don't care what you say, without D&D, without all this stuff, you don't get a market. You don't get a customer base. You don't get people making this stuff. I really don't believe most of the games we see out would even exist. You want to see the Robotech or the Vampires without the D&D, really. I think some people, you might say, well, they were on their way there. Yeah, but a lot of people had dreams and things they never play out in life. I think without Gary Gygax, I think, is the centerpiece of making the glue stick and making it work at the end of the day. I don't care who is smart, clever, whatever. It's who makes it happen that really becomes the important player in the game. and you start recognizing them, and there's usually only a few of them, no matter how much somebody else brought to the table, who got it to the table for real. And when you look at it, in my opinion to this day, there's one reason all the guys, even the guys that had criticism of him, would always give him credit, even when they would say someone else was shit, never give them credit. The reason Gary gets it is he was the guy that got it done. And we got a hobby and a whole industry from it that extends out from what he achieved at the end of the day. There was a team, but some individual play was here. Without a guy like him leading the charge, I really don't think we would have had exactly what we see. We might have some small little cult gaming thing going on the side, like chess or something. I just don't see it being the industry without Gary. That's my honest take. It made player skill visible. That's what tournament play did. Because it's saying, here's the things to be a good player. If you don't do them, you don't get the points, you must suck. And so it's emphasizing you to play well. So if you don't, it's going to stick out when, especially everyone starts saying, everyone starts around you start understanding this is good play. And when they don't see you doing it, they understand now that's not good play. So you start being the idea is to create the mentality that you're not playing well, because Gary and them think this is a good way to play the game. So they want the pressure that you play the game this way. That's why the points are the way they are. They're there for incentive. It made player skill visible. Tournament D&D emphasized mapping carefully, resource management, tactical discipline, puzzle solving. It rewarded brains over character sheets. That ethos still lives in old school circles today. AD&D, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, First Edition, wasn't built just for your basement. It was built for the public competition. It really was. I get some people that played it at home have somewhat a different experience, but they forget that it was made for a competitive gaming between players trying to play well. Not character versus character in that way. It's who's playing better. And these are the elements that make you a good player. And if you don't play that way, you're not a good player. It's pretty simple. Gary and them had an idea of what it was. If you want to know what Gary and them thought about how you should play D&D, look at tournament play. A lot of it is how they think the public should come at the game, right? In many ways. Now, Gary himself came at the game differently, but he would still emphasize that this was a goal. This was a real thing. That shift, that's the shift. Private storytelling, structured competitive events, right? So private storytelling becomes structured competitive events. And the focus on storytelling has gone away to the mega dungeon competition, traps, puzzles. That pressure forged the system. So is storytelling important to AD&D? Not as much as the competitive, looking at it as a game, but it's a weird mix of realism with principles of realism that don't always play into every section of the game. And then the sort of game element that does lean away oddly from the storytelling. But it's so true if you understand the tournament play and competitive competition it was meant to be. Okay. Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, myth versus reality. Myth number 1. 1E was just confusing and badly written. Reality. This is where AD&D 1E people are going to appreciate what I say here. Reality. It was written for experienced gamers. 1E was just unforgiving. It was like, oh, you're a rookie? Okay, go play some OD&D. See you in a year. That's AD&D 1 is hardcore in a way like this. The attitude of almost the game is saying to you, you should go play original for a year and come back and see me then. It's not made for you, rookie. Joking. Or you could just jump into the fire, right? The books assume you already understand miniature wargaming concepts. So they think you understand some of these concepts already share with you through understanding needing to use chainmail for original D&D. So they assumed you already used chainmail for original D&D, so you get that. It's dense, yes, but it's not random. The books aren't random. It's dense, very dense set of books, but not random. The structure reflects tournament precision and referee authority. See, to understand this stuff is to understand this, to start just, it takes mystery away from AD&D first edition in a lot of areas. What were they going after here? Just understand this stuff. It's not random. The structure reflects tournament precision, getting the game through, done properly, no arguing, referee authority to make sure the squash of arguing, so the thing gets done on time. All right? You got 3-4 hours. You don't got 10. And you got to get something done and complete it. Not half done. You can't afford to go to next week. It has to be completed. AD&D 1 was, well, we got to get it done. Let's get it done because it's made to get it done. And you'll feel a little bit of pressure from get it done if you pay attention to this. Right? It reads like a technical manual crossed with a manifesto. Remember, it's a game, but then it's scary. Right? It's a game, but then it's scary. So it's manual crossed with a manifesto. Manual crossed with a manifesto. And that voice, as I said, it's Scary Gygax is all over that book. So it's almost a religious text if you're a D&D old school person. I would say that. I say that jokingly, but if you get what I'm saying, it has its sort of legendary status, that book, because Gary is so in the AD&D first edition Dungeon Master Guide. Combat was broken. Myth number 2, reality combat was procedural, not broken. Initiative segments, weapon speed factors, casting time. It models timing, not cinematic flow. Right? It's not about how cool it looks. It's getting it right. Remember, it's simulation more than it is, that looks awesome. It's trying to simulate combat, not give you the awesome picture. So that's the main thing, right? Modern editions streamline. 1E simulates. If you run it casually, it works fine. If you run it strictly, it gets granular. That's a choice, not a flaw. It's a choice how you run the game. That's important because the game is sort of open to coming at it in different ways. Even though there can be similarities, you can't really get around that people can take different approaches. I think even Gary understood that. They understood that as they put the system out. Even though you could play it, and that's the idea is, you could play it at home in this more casual way, but we really are aiming at the tournament play, right? But it's like an acknowledgement. Myth number 3. It was all about killing players. Reality. Now, some players in the past might not like to hear this because it's what it punished careless play, bad play. It rewarded caution, but it makes its own standard for what is good gameplay. So the caution is good gameplay in that type of old school atmosphere. So caution is rewarded. Tournament modules like Tomb of Horrors were extreme by design, not everyday play. They weren't casual. It was made to say, oh, you came here just to sit down and relax? Wrong game, man. Wrong game. Like this is the game where the second you pucker up your lips, your ass lips, it's going, man. It's coming at you. Oh, the whole time. Right? Every second can be something. Home campaigns often had long-running characters. The danger created tension. The tension created investment. True. So it wasn't all about killing the players. Let me say that again. Home campaigns often had long-running characters. So a lot of home campaigns, even though they become the minority, they still report back of, hey, we're we're not having these games where our characters don't just like live. Like it's not like a meat grinder for everyone. So, and the danger though that you could die, but if you play cautious, you could live. The danger's always there. That tension from the danger creates investment, especially for the person willing to be cautious. They survive, but they always get to live on that edge of, man, I know I can die easily. Like it's good to sort of know it and be under that. That's immersion, like it being immersed through fear. This AD&D 1, immersed through fear. Okay. Myth number 4. There was no role play. Reality. The system didn't mechanicize role play. Like it didn't put it into the rules exactly. That's different. Reaction tables, moral checks, alignment consequences, NPC interaction mattered. It just wasn't codified with the skill system, like in a skill way, right? The role play lived at the table, not on the character sheet. So the role play was just something you are supposed to want to do because you are rewarded by it. The game says, look, in all honesty, maybe you could talk your way into the bar or something, but outside of that, we're not writing it down how you talk your way into the bar. Meaning we'll leave it to the DM. Here's a charisma thing. Here's some ideas. Go ahead. If however you want to deal with the guy talking his way into the bar, you deal with that dude. Have at it. So there was role play, but it was less like we need to write this in. We expect you'll just do it. And they weren't wrong. Myth number 5. 1E was unbalanced, and that's bad. It was asymmetrical by design. Magic users start weak, fighters dominate mid-levels, clerics scale steadily. High-level wizards become terrifying. The imbalance created class identity. It felt like a world, not a symmetrical esport. Myth number 6, race and class restrictions were arbitrary. Reality, level caps and restrictions reinforce the human-dominated setting. It's just saying this is how the human world sees these things. So it's the idea is that's the important view of what reality is. So when it says there's this, it's because that's the view from that thing in that way. Demi-humans had advantages early. Humans scale long-term, right? So demi-humans couldn't go to a certain level. Humans could just keep leveling up forever, right? It's long-term progression. It pushed campaign tone. It wasn't about fairness. It was about world logic. Simulation of real is more important than sometimes cool, right? Challenge you is more important than making it comfortable so you can relax, right? Putting you on edge. Like you get it. Like this game didn't care. AD&D wasn't there to hold your hand or make it easy. This is rough old D&D, but it's survivable. It's like it's meant to have these elements, but that's actually meant to get you there. Again, AD&D first D. It's like just think about like Dark Souls. This can be like that. It can feel that difficult in gameplay sometimes. On edge, very careful. Myth number 7. It was just a messy transition from original Dungeons and Dragons. So a lot of people thought this was just hey, you tried this tournament thing, it didn't work out. Like this is a fuck. You fucked this up, dude. I don't know what you were thinking, but you fucked this up. You sold a bunch of it, but you fucked this up. And that was the take from some people. In reality, it was a consolidation effort. OD&D had loose booklets. AD&D 1E formalized official monster stats, artifact rules, spell list, tournament standards. It created unified product identity for TSR. Again, it's making tabletop role-playing games. It's making Dungeons and Dragons not a Frankenstein of other ideas. Now it's in the package of its own thing. And what they're saying is, Gary's saying, this is our foot forward. That's a lot of it. That's what it's saying. 1E didn't support story, reality. Story was emergent. Modules like Temple of Elemental Evil and early Dragonlance Saga show narrative arcs growing inside of 1E. It wasn't story light. It was story through consequences. So this is where I say it's all true. What you do It's not like you focus to tell the story. You just do the thing for the game, and that tells a story. I know it's simple when I say this, but in reality, this is what we're doing. If I go for a walk for an hour, say some interesting things happen on the walk. I mean, like the walk is actually interesting to hear. Man, I see so many amazing things and have so many experiences before I get home. It's a great story I could tell you. Did I go on the walk to tell the story? No. And when you play these games, you're here to play a game. Out of it, a story can be told. But that's not the core aim. Storytelling is there's elements that we borrow from it like everything else. It's what makes the game a Frankenstein pieced together thing. Some from tactical gaming, some from drama class, some from here. It's not every bit of it. It's not the identity doesn't become drama class. The identity doesn't become wargaming. The identity is something completely new, like a Frankenstein, this whole new thing pieced together. I always say that's why I don't like identifying this as wargaming or this as drama class. I like the idea that tabletop role-playing games in their own right is their own thing, right? And it just identifies separate from these things. It's a completely different experience. You go here for something different. You go here for something different. You're not really coming here for exactly that, but there's elements of that help this overall be fun. Not just the rolling of the dice in the game, stuff going on, which can be fun in combination with, guess what? You get to do a little bit of, speaking for your character and role playing and stuff like that, mixing these experiences all in one package, which is meant to make it fun in its own way, its own identity. Myth number 7, it was purely wargaming. Reality. It had wargaming DNA, yes, but it expanded into mythic fantasy, planar travel, demon lords, artifacts with backstories. By the 80s, 1E was beyond miniature combat. Let me say that again. By the 80s, 1E was far beyond miniatures combat. The game is pure theater of the mind. Miniatures are somewhat optional to use. All optional, always optional language. The mandated way to play the game is pure theater of the mind. So it's just understand the game somewhat is, even though it says you could use them to help you, it still keeps leaning away from them because realistically, Gary just never seen the price cost of the miniatures as a good thing. He thought that would just keep people out. So why bother even designing the game towards that for the most part? Like makes things optional, but actually purposely move away from it. Like actually move away from it. Myth number 10. Nobody actually played it by the book. Reality. True. And that's part of its strength. 1E assumes house rules. The Dungeon Master Guide literally encourages education. It was a framework, not a locked system. That flexibility is why it survived. 1E wasn't primitive. It was uncompromising. It wasn't like old or, oh man, this is with the old way of thinking. It was like, no. It wasn't primitive. It was uncompromising. This is what this is. Period. It didn't hold your hand. It didn't smooth every edge. It expected you to step up. And for a lot of players, that's exactly the appeal. Exactly the appeal. When a game is made for someone with some talent, it will draw talented people. It will draw that to it. Okay, we're going to talk about some complaints and then counterpoints. Common modern complaints about 1E and counterpoints. Complaints. Number 1, descending armor class is stupid. Descending AC reflects the wargame lineage, the roots. Low number, harder to hit. Simple battlefield logic. Once you eternalize it, it's second nature. Modern ascending AC isn't better, it's just inverted math. Veteran 1E players didn't struggle with it. So if you played the system, it wasn't a hard thing to really learn and play with. So regardless of criticism you may hear about it, in reality, just no. Complaint number 2, the rules are too complicated. They're only complicated if you try to run every subsystem at once. Most tables simplified initiative. Again, this is where I tell you things aren't always, this is how it is. It's a guidance. Some people even today get it confused and say, this is rules is written. I'm like, well, no, there's a lot of things that are, you can do that, but you don't have to. So even rules is written is saying you don't have to. And rules is written is sort of a bad way to really explain what AD&D 1 is, because there's so many optional things you can do that to say rules is written is sort of confusing. Like, well, there's a lot of adjustments I can make based on what the rules tell me. So, and in its own right, it's hard to say rules is written unless you're like, well, that means it's sort of not as tight format. Actually, it's open to host ruling and make it in a weird way. That's sort of what it becomes, because the rules sort of hint that you can do these things. Ignore weapon speed. Streamline segments. Remember, ignore weapon speed? That was a common thing. 1E gives depth. You choose how much to use. Let me say that again. 1E gives depth. You choose how much to use. And it gives you the right to choose. Hard to be raw when raw could be so varied. It's modular before modular design was fashionable. That's a good way to put it. Complaint number 3, the game is unbalanced. It's asymmetrical, not unbalanced. Classes feel different. Magic user earns their power. A fighter survives through grit. The imbalance creates dramatic arcs. Modern balance smooths identity. 1E amplifies it. Like the differences, the who you are, it's more on, on show. Complaint number 4 about AD&D First Edition, it's too lethal. Counterpoint. The lethality creates stakes. You check doors for traps. You scout ahead. You manage resources carefully. Survival feels meaningful. Without danger, victory is cheap. How is that not true? Like the getting through the hard part, the danger, the scary, but you achieve it, you overcome it, you get through the danger, and then you achieve the thing at the end. People that just get there with little or to no effort getting there, they will not know how good it feels to get there through the danger rather than getting there easily, unless they experience both. And then right away, they'll know the difference. Like, okay, cool, we got here. Where they know on the edge, it's like, shit, I can't believe we got to the end and got that. That's the story you tell later to people. That's the thing you remember. That's the thing that becomes important. Complaint number 5, it relies too much on the DM. That's the point. 1E assumes a strong referee. The system trusts the dungeon master. It doesn't try to automate every ruling. That freedom creates table culture, the freedom. Freedom. That means, again, rules is written. What does that actually mean when it comes to AD&D 1? Doesn't mean much. You start realizing the more you understand of AD&D 1, the whole argument of raw becomes, there's so many different ways you can approach it. What do you mean raw? Raw, unless you mean tournament play. That's the closest thing to raw that AD&D 1 is. If you restrict yourself to tournament play and say raw, that's limiting. That makes more sense to me. If you go at AD&D 1 for what it really is, to say raw is to say, okay, well, we could run it 50 different ways. Which one of our raw ways, or maybe even 150, depending on little minor things here, there, and everywhere. We can all find different ways to piece things together, do different things. So what's raw? It empowers creativity. It doesn't say just run it by the book. It says run it whatever the fuck way you want. Second edition does the same thing. It emphasizes it even more. But there's The life of this creativity comes from AD&D 1. So when I hear AD&D 1 guys talking about fucking ROM, like, it makes me think you guys just didn't dig too far into what this was. Like, I understood the tournament play. I seen it. I tried it out. It's a thing. I don't know how much experience you have with tournament play. I had real experience with it. Complaint number 6. There's no support for role play. As I said earlier, it doesn't it doesn't create mechanics for role play in the same way. Reaction tables, alignment systems, moral rules. The structure exists, but it leaves acting and negotiation to players, not dice. So in a way, like, it more just says it's really on you to talk your way through. That's a design philosophy, not a flaw. It's saying, like, look, you speak for your character here and talk to the guard and see if he'll let you in. Right? You say some words, that's it. That's the expectation with role play. It doesn't need to be empowered by the game. It's just expected that you're going to do it. And that in its own right is rewarding without a point for it. Though good role play and tournament play was acknowledged and you could get points for it. So they understood that role play was something you were going to do. And in tournament play, it was a bit more rewarding to do role play because now you finally, instead of, there's no experience for it usually, but you can get points for good play by doing it. And it could help you. You could negotiate your way into something, do something. So in a way, role play can become ways of making things happen, but you do it without the dice. It was a real belief by them. The writing is arrogant. Okay, counterpoint. It has personality. Read the Dungeon Master Guide and you hear Gary Gygax speaking directly, like me. Opinionated, confident, sometimes blunt. It feels authored, as I said earlier. Many modern books feel committee polished. 1E feels human. Like dad sitting down at the fire and talking to you about the fucking game, telling you how it is. Modules were unfair. Complaint number 8. Tournament routes demand challenge. Tomb of Horrors wasn't unfair. It was a skill test. Players weren't meant to brute force it. They were meant to think. That design philosophy shaped old school play. Complaint number 9. Race and level caps were bad design. They reinforced setting tone. Humans dominate long-term power structures. This is so true. Demi-humans get early advantages. It shaped campaign worlds politically. It wasn't about fairness. It was about world-building logic. Remember, nerds, especially back then, nerds cared about real and simulating more real. And if you looked at what they did and said they had some bigoted view there, you're telling me right away, your first confession is you don't know what a nerd is. Because you don't understand why they put the limitations in. You asked nerds back then. I never heard somebody say, I hate somebody for this reason. Like, it was just like, yeah, they're this, they're short. You'd hear nerd factual stuff and then them trying to simulate reality instead of worrying about what's cool. Or even the concept of worrying about how you felt about it. This is not a game about how you feel. It's a game about challenging you. So the mind concept of your feelings being the concern of the company wasn't there. Last one, complaint number 10. It feels dated. It feels, in reality, this is the counterpoint, it feels foundational. So many later mechanics track back to 1E. Organized play, hardcover format, module structure, campaign settings like Greyhawk and Early Forgotten Realms roots. You call it structural. Strong moment for your stream. This is me just saying my own notes out loud. I write things down really quick. Okay, so this is important. This is really important. 1E wasn't trying to be accessible. It was trying to be authoritative. It reframes the conversation. It wasn't clumsy. It was confident. So this is really important. Let me say it again. 1E wasn't trying to be accessible. It was trying to be authoritative. Like it's the law is laid down. You're not here to be pampered. You're here to be challenged. We want to know if you're good, so we put the heat on you. It's going to the gauntlet of fire, right? I'm so used to doing all my content off the top of my head, so when I read my own stuff, yeah. Sooner or later, I had that moment. I try not to put too many notes in because I don't want to accidentally read the notes I'm putting in. Very important. AD&D 1E did better than every edition after it. So this is sort of a little bit of love here for the AD&D first edition guys online here. What AD&D 1E did better than every edition after it. It treated the DM as final authority. 1E doesn't pretend the book replaces the referee. It assumes intelligence at the head of the table. Later editions try to systemize, everything. So it leaves it more to the book than the DM. 1E trusted the dungeon master instead of the book taking over. That trust creates power at the table. Second Ed emphasizes this even more, but it is there in 1E, which sometimes wonders why. I felt over the years after learning about it, I met so many 1E DMs that would clash with me about strict stuff. I could never totally understand it because I was like, what you're doing is more like what I'm doing outside of tournament play. I was always confused because it just felt like I was meeting guys that were telling me about tournament play without realizing that their philosophy came from tournament play, but yet they're doing it the at-home game. Well, if you're doing the at-home game, the tournament play philosophy isn't required. And most that I knew never even played with it in public. Tournament play failed as much as it did. It was a big part of the design. It just failed overall. TSR never denied this. Tournament play just didn't take the way they wanted it to. They tried, it lasted for a bit, but it didn't go far. But it's worth knowing about to understand the game overall. It made the world dangerous. Poison kills, as I said, level drain is permanent, save or die exist. Monsters don't scale to you. You walk into a dungeon knowing you might not walk out. That tension is hard to replicate. To know every time you go into a dungeon, okay, that might be it. See ya. Later, ma'am. All right, this might be the last time I'm ever heard of. And it could be in an AD&D first edition game. It respected player skill. So true. There is no perception button solving everything. You describe actions. You test floors. You burn oil in corridors. You map carefully. It rewards thinking, not just character builds. 1E had an unapologetic identity. It didn't smooth edges. It didn't chase accessibility. It didn't design for every possible style. It just gave you freedom to do whatever you want there. And it knew what it was, sword and sorcery roots. And some of this is tournament play, war game discipline, mythic escalation, competence matters. It produced ruthless, focused modules. Tournament roots created type design, Tomb of Horrors, Temple of Elemental Evil against the giants. These weren't hand-holding adventures. They were challenges. They assumed competence. This is why many people in the hobby didn't want it open to the public, because they thought this was an elite hobby for people, deep thinkers. A lot of people back in the day, that's what they were convinced. They hate the idea of TSR opening up to the public. They wanted it to be just us. I was part of the just us, just to be clear. It let power feel earned. Magic users start fragile. High-level wizards feel like gods. Fighters endure and dominate mid-levels. As I said earlier, clerics reshape battlefields. The arc feels dramatic because the climb is steep. Later editions flattened the curve. Just a harder growing, right? I'm going to give a focus here on Gary at the end here. I got a couple more things to cover here. It felt mythic at high levels. Artifacts had personalities, like intelligence. Gods had stat blocks, like I said earlier. Planes were alien and hostile, different places you could go. The tone escalated from dungeon crawl to cosmic warfare. That transition was bold, very. It had a singular voice, and that was Gary. The Dungeon Master's Guide doesn't read like a committee document. It reads like a declaration. The voice gives it weight. Now, let's finish this off talking about Gary. Gary's Dungeon Master Guide philosophy. The Dungeon Master is not a servant. Very important. Gary Gygax wrote the Dungeon Master Guide as a guidance for authority. The DM is referee, world builder, final judge. The rule exists to support you, not restrain you. Hence, the rules as raw thing doesn't control you. There's so much freedom for you to do what you want that doesn't control you. Rule lawyers can't control you. Same thing with second edition. That's why I personally frowned at rule lawyers, because they didn't have the authority to even be that. Like, you can mention a mistake, I still have the authority on that thing. Not the book, me. This was true in AD&D 1 if you understood what AD&D 1 really was. Like, if you were a real AD&D 1 DM, I was always confused. You should agree with me more as a second ed DM than say disagree and say raw instead of do what you want. Well, I'm like, yeah, but your game says the same thing mine does. So why are you saying raw in that way? I was confused. Still to this day confused. Rulings over exhaustive rules. Hence, again, do it your way. Do it your way. Not, by the book, do it your way. The DM guide contains massive tables, all optional use stuff. Random dungeon generators, wilderness systems, NPC reactions, artifact quirks, intelligence, but it constantly reinforces one thing. You decide. The system, as I say about second edition all the time, same thing with first edition, baby. The system is a toolkit. So most when you say, this is by the book, no, I can put that aside. No, you can. It's wrong. No, actually, the book says I can. So, sure. Yeah, I can. So there's so many different ways to experience it. To say rules is written, I'm like, what the fuck do you mean? This doesn't make sense, not if you know the reality of this. Adversarial does not mean hostile. Gygax believed challenge creates fun. The dungeon is, how can we say, dangerous, right? The dungeon is dangerous. Sorry about that, folks. The dungeon is dangerous. The world pushes back, but it's not about punishing players. It's about testing them. Mystery is sacred. The Dungeon Master Guide encourages secrecy, hidden mechanics, unknown monsters, unknown monster abilities, unpredictable magic. Players shouldn't know everything. Discovery fuels wonder. Earned achievement is better than given success. Let me just read that whole section again. The Dungeon Master Guide encourages something very important. Secrecy. Hidden mechanics. Unknown monster abilities. Unpredictable magic. Players shouldn't know everything. I like that. That's so true. You shouldn't want to. Discovery fuels wonder. Earned achievement is better than given success, which you get a lot given to you by WotC, right? It feels better to not have it given to you. Victory should mean something. Treasure should feel won. Survival should feel narrow. That philosophy shaped 1E's tone completely. Listen to me here. 1E didn't try to protect the players. It tried to prepare them. Prepare them for the dangerous world. Not protect them, prepare them to deal with it, not to run away. I'm not saying second ed is worse, because I love second edition. I'm not saying this is better. I'm saying 1E had conviction. Conviction that I say even carries over, but it comes from here, right? It comes from this. I hope that this, especially early on, the stream wasn't too glitchy. I don't know. I hope it's not. I hope this stands a bit of test of time as a deep dive into understanding AD&D 1 up and down to get the philosophy about it, what it was made for. And part of it was to push back against raw rules as written, because I don't understand why that is so preached from that system when that's not a second edition thing. And that freedom that second edition pushes extremely hard is still pushed in 1E. It's like, again, so many things, rules as written. I'm like, yeah, but I can get rid of like half the stuff and change it. The game says it's okay. Well, I could use that rule, but I could just make up my own. But then players will expect me to make sure I keep doing the same thing. I could run time like that if I want to. Or I could skip. And the game gives you that type of freedom. It's not saying change the game completely. It's saying that there are walls, of course. But within the walls, you don't have to follow everything. Right? So you can drastically change what's in the walls. That's what they don't tell you about AD&D 1. And rules as written becomes a statement that just doesn't hold water in the reality of what AD&D 1 is, unless you want to do tournament play. And then the whole rules as written raw thing makes more sense to the mindset of tournament play. But that mindset, if you try to adopt it to home play, you're getting confused. That mindset is meant for tournament play. You are allowed with AD&D 1, and it tells you pretty much you can put the tournament mindset aside and do whatever you want with the game. Strict only becomes when you're giving points to skilled players. See, if you like the tournament competitive play of AD&D 1, if you want to play tournament style, fair enough. But the second you step out of that, you can no longer really judge players and the DMs for playing AD&D 1 in whatever way they want outside of tournament play. They're still playing it right because they can play it so many different ways. The book just says you don't have to do all these things. The book does give you a few frame things you got to do, certain dice, certain combat things you got to do. Very few things, though, only so many things, but that creates the frame. And then within the frame, you can do whatever you want. Same thing with second edition. It's the same fucking thing. It's just more emphasized even more. You got a frame, but you can do whatever you want in it, so you can experience and do second ed like fucking 500 different ways. Same thing with AD&D first edition. So when you hear guys out there saying raw rules as written, just understand how flawed that whole point of view is. Okay, I hope whoever did stick around. Notice somebody hung out for pretty much all night. I appreciate that. I hope you did enjoy this. I hope everyone who does check this out later gets a chance to enjoy this. This is a love letter to the AD&D 1 guys out there, because I played it, I DM'd it, I respect it, I respect you, I respect old school, I respect the TSR era of what we did. Even if I love second edition, I respect the entire package, my friends. I respect original D&D, and I'm going to show that next week too, on the next stream, next Thursday, when I do a special focused on that, top to bottom, going through it, finding out about the history, why things were made, what the philosophy was, who was saying what about it, why were things important. You can always learn how to play the game. That's easy. There's 5,000 videos out on that of how to play original AD&D and AD&D first edition. I don't got to add on to that. I'm trying to give you wisdom and understanding and history that a lot of you might just not bother ever digging up yourself. So instead of sending you off to read all this shit, here, come listen to me. I'll give you the walkthrough. I'll give you the wisdom. I'll give you the thoughts behind what was going on. All the facts, and that's what I covered tonight. Facts. Okay, AD&D first edition crowd, I love you. I love AD&D 1. It's not my favorite, but I love you. And I love all the miniature people out there. I love everyone. I really do. I don't hate you. I have my opinions, but I don't hate you. I love you. Even if we disagree, I still love you. All right. Okay. Take care. That's almost 2 hours, baby.